Today, we're talking about one of the hottest topics of 2025, artificial intelligence. But this isn't just another high level AI discussion. My guest today is going to share some actual stories about how he's used large language models, LLMs, in his personal life and at work. And he's going to share some practical tips about how you can get started or improve, if you're already dabbling, your knowledge and skills in this evolving space. Today's guest is Minh Phan, an actuary who I think made history rapping about LLMs at the most recent All Actuaries Summit. Minh, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Julia. Thank you for having me.
So I think it must be maybe 6 weeks since the summit when you were up on stage rapping about LLMs. What's happened since then? How has it been for you?
Oh, it's been an absolutely wonderful experience. I don't think I've had so many kind words and excitement of people coming to me after the show. I think the most exciting, so I've been asked to speak about maybe five or six different conferences off the back of that one.
Really?
The most funny thing is I ran into a friend on the train last week I haven't seen for about, I don't know, 7 years. We qualified together in actuary. And he said that, oh, Min, like, I haven't seen you for ages, but my boss has just been WhatsApping me about you. I'm like, what do you mean? And he said that, yeah, she'd gone to the Actuaries Institute Summit and she's telling him, look, we got to get on, we have to use AI. And he's like, I know, but like, where is this all coming from? Turns out she'd seen me at the summit. And yeah, I think that was a really nice, a wonderful, like, oh, people actually took notice of what I kind of said and did at that conference. And yeah, it's just been a wonderfully positive experience.
Mm. Well, it was great to watch and very memorable. And I'm not surprised that lots of people are still talking about it because many actuaries find it nerve-wracking just getting up on stage and delivering a presentation. But you got up and rapped.
Yeah.
It must be a first. But it
Oh,
took a lot of guts to do that. And I remember you saying something like, you're going to take a risk or something, but I'm sure that risk's paid off.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, actually, it's something that I've just loved during my whole life. Not my whole life, actually. I've been obsessed with music for a very, very long time, and I've done like a lot of pub gigs and amateur theatre and stand-up comedy, and like
Wow.
I'm very used to performing on the stage, and I get quite energized. And it was just a nice way for me to blend something that I really enjoy doing in my personal life into my work life. And that's the kind of the story of AI as well, which is I just am obsessed about it. I spend all my spare time trying to learn and build it applications affect my personal life, and then I learn it in my personal life and then bring it into my work life. And it's been this kind of surprise at how I've been able to kind of integrate the things I enjoy doing outside of work to inside of work. And yeah, music and AI are just you don't expect them to come together, but here I am and here we are.
Yeah, here we are. Yeah, fantastic. So authentic as well, because it's you bringing yourself to your work and bringing the things that you love and enjoy doing as well. So, um,
Yeah,
awesome. Okay, so you mentioned using it in your personal life. How have you used AI in your personal life?
yeah. I mean, I basically use it for anything that I want to do. So you can use it just as a kind of chat and sounding board or researching things. I'm a new parent, and
Mhm.
if I want to look up new products like prams or formula blends and looking at the pros and cons of each, I kind of open up ChatGPT, ask it to summarize, put it into a table, and I deep dive on the ingredients and compositions of the formulas and the pros and cons of the different brands. If it's a more complex topic, so we had our kid was jaundiced, and I was like really worried, like, oh, what
Oh,
is jaundice? So I asked it to do a deep dive on like the prevalence and the treatments, and I found out it's actually a really common thing.
mm.
Um, Breastfeeding versus formula debate. So we were really keen on breastfeeding, and so I wanted to look at these longitudinal studies of the benefits of each, and so I kind of used ChatGPT for that. I also used it for other day-to-day things like so you can actually turn on video mode on your ChatGPT. So I had a plumbing issue, a really trivial one, where like my tap hose kind of one of the things fell off, and then yeah, it basically yeah, like a piece fell off and then I needed to kind of deal with it. And I turned on to video mode and I said, can you help me solve this plumbing issue? And it said, yes, the first thing you need is turn off the tap mains and rotate it 90 degrees here. And it
Wow.
was, I mean, it was, I mean, it was a very trivial problem to solve, but like I use video mode to. So I just my first instinct is like I will just ask AI if it can help me,
Mm,
and
mm.
um, yeah, other things. Oh, when I was buying a house, I was using it to read contracts to flag, like are there any funny clauses or flood zoning or like, risk things like that they can just quickly tell me. So just yeah, using it for literally anything that I can.
Mm.
Um, and then I think something else I've done is I use it to like images. I built out this. I posted this on LinkedIn a few weeks ago where I have this caricatures of animals of cat and mice and playing music, and that's kind of my family. And I built that out and I made a pillow out of it. So it's just like
I remember that post. We should link to
yeah,
that in the show notes too. Yeah, that was a very,
yeah,
very interesting application of AI. I didn't realize you could
yeah.
do that.
And then outside of that, like I love writing applications and code. And so three pieces of code that I've written are like one, which is Home Run, this app that was I built a basically a scraper to help me find the optimal suburb to buy in. Pilates, an application that books my wife's Pilates classes for her automatically. And I have this kind of sports betting thing on the side that I kind of have going with a friend, and so I helped write out the code and scrapers for that.
Wow.
So helping me supercharge my crazy ideas into like, oh, let's build something
Yep.
is how I use it in my personal life.
That's amazing. Can you tell us a bit more about Home Run? What was the problem there and what did you do?
Okay, so yeah, so I live in a two-bedroom apartment, and we were planning to have a kid, and I said two-bedroom not big enough. I need to buy a house, and of course, like as every kind of data-driven profession, we go, okay, well, what's the best place that I need to buy? And so to do that, you need data. So I said, okay, let's scrape the internet for what are the historical housing prices across Sydney over the last like 18 months. But then on top of that, it's like, well, you need to consider what's the distance to the public transport distance to work, the driving distance to our parents, what are the school catchments, what are the NAPLAN scores of those schools, and kind of like overlay this into basically a heat map, and then you like form filters and say, okay, well, it needs to be this distance to work, this distance to parents, this kind of price range, this kind of socioeconomic score, this NAPLAN school catchment. And then we end up buying in the midpoint of our parents' suburbs. But it was a silly, like in hindsight, like I spent a lot of time, probably a few weekends building this thing out
Mm.
to come up with a very like, like obviously you bought there, but it was just, the joy of being able to code out this application that at the time I didn't know how to write. I was new to Python. I hadn't ever coded up in using Folium or like geospatial data. And
Mm.
ChatGPT was hot. This is 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and I was watching all these videos like, oh, ChatGPT can like code this, code that. I'm like, well, let's see if it can. And
Yeah.
it was a slog. Like it wasn't like the app didn't build itself out, but I kind of built it out component by component, and yeah, I kind of managed to like string together this Streamlit application, like just off a prayer, Hail Mary prayer, put this thing together, and yeah, it was yeah, my first moment of like, oh, this AI thing's actually kind of useful. Like had I shouldn't have been able to do this, but I did this over a couple of weekends, and yeah, that was like a really nice like aha light bulb moment for me.
And I imagine having such a tangible project to work on would have been
Yeah,
a great opportunity to learn some of those skills. Sometimes you jump into
yeah,
data camp and you're doing something and it's just
yeah,
exercises and things, and it's really hard to kind of embed that sometimes I find, unless you've actually
yeah.
got some purpose for what you're learning.
Yeah, I agree. Like I think that's, yeah, I'll touch on it a few times, but I think where I've learned the most is where I just pick a problem and then I just go head deep and go, okay, how do I build this? And then I work out everything in between. And
Mm,
like, if I don't know, like I've learned JavaScript, Docker, like Next.js, like cloud-based, like I just said, okay, if I need to achieve this,
mm,
then what do I need to know? And then I'll just
yeah,
learn those things.
yeah, yeah. That's such
And
a
AI
great,
is great for that. Like, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, awesome. So even though you could have maybe looked at the map and found the midpoint between your parents' houses without,
Yeah,
you could do it old
yeah,
school, you would
yeah,
have
yeah,
missed out on all of those opportunities for that learning to build your skills in that, yeah,
yeah,
to do that and see what you can do.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so you've used AI tools in your personal life, and it sounds like in lots of different domains to solve lots of different problems. What
Hmm.
about at work? How have you used LLMs in your work life?
Yeah, so basically just every day. Um, so I use it kind of for three kind of main buckets. I like to think of it in terms of like ideation, literacy, so like reading, writing, and coding. So and this is just from a kind of individual basis that I'm talking about. Then there's the kind of procedural team, building out kind of actual processes for teams and insurance companies. I'll kind of put them into a separate bucket. So the first is just like, how do I use it personally to help me day to day?
Yep.
And ideation is just, yeah, if you have any problem, you just ask AI. So if I want to build out an application, I'll say like, what's the best software? What are the best packages? Put into a table, explain why this is the thing that I'm trying to achieve.
Mhm.
Or if I'm going to building out a model, I'll say, I'm trying to model like this target thing. What kind of technique should I use? What's the loss function? What hyperparameterization?
Mm.
How can I think about external data that I can merge on that's publicly available? And I kind of just kind of play it out like, okay, I'm trying to do this thing and just tell me like the best way to do it. And it's nice because I used to just ask, we've got this statistician god like that I used to kind of ask all these kind of these modeling questions to, or the app stuff I would kind of ask developers and other people, but now I just get to ask AI. And when I go talk to these other people, I have like a good starting base. I can ask them, is this like the right thing? So um, there's the kind of ideation phase. The other good thing is just critically evaluating my work. So whether it be like a PDS presentation, I kind of upload it and then I say, I'm trying to present to this kind of cohort. Can you review it from the perspective of this cohort?
Mhm.
And yeah, and it could be reviewing it from the terms of content, structure, visual layout, or it could just be like, what questions might they ask? And I kind of have this loop where it's, yeah, you upload, you ask for the evaluation against a perspective, and then ask it to review, and then I modify it, and then I kind of go through this cycle so that, it's kind of, I get more polished output when I kind of present work.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
so there's
So
that,
that
and then
iterative process helps you to improve the quality of your outputs because you're getting
yeah,
that feedback from different perspectives that you can then incorporate into your work.
yeah. So it's just like again, instead of asking your senior to review, kind of just ask AI. Okay, I'm going to present to this group. Like, what do they want to know? Is this structure sensible? Is this yeah? Is the messaging clear enough? Yeah. So that's yeah. Valuing my work is and obviously there's the classic. I'm about to send this email. Make this better.
Yep.
Sometimes I just write better, because I do that all the time. And AI regulation and standards, I use it for research like all the time. So I always forget like what the 10 guardrails are or like the 10 the voluntary standards. Or how the EU AI Act works and what is classified as a high versus low risk. And so it's just yeah, lots and lots of kind of day-to-day stuff. You can just instead of asking someone, just ask AI
Yep.
and read what it says, and obviously critique it. Don't just take it for. uh,
How do you critique it, Min? How do you validate what you've got coming out of these models?
you just read it and you go, does this make sense or not? And if it doesn't, you're like, give me more. Like, give me the link that you where like, yeah. I'll ask it. So if it's research, I'll click down through on the link if I don't think it made sense, and I'll ask for it, or I'll ask for the verbatim extract of what it came up with in a table.
Mhm.
If it's a package-based thing, I'll just then yeah, I'll say, okay, I'll take it away and go ask someone who's actually, a developer or a statistician, like, AI says this, is this dumb?
Yep.
And so, yeah, you just have to, a lot of the times, AI is just right. So you build up more confidence in the things that it kind of does. But yeah, like you can't just, I'm just, I've learned to kind of just, really read and digest it and then ask yourself, does this make sense? Or do I need to ask someone else? And that's how I kind of get my get my comfort on the outputs.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, that's just on the ideation bit.
Mhm.
There's the yeah, reading long documents, transcribing screenshots of data, and like tons and tons of coding. So those are the kind of three buckets of things that I do. But I think yeah, ideation is really important because it's where you get the most scale on your well, not scale, but you get most value out of those kind of conversations because once you start a piece of work and you head down a certain path, it's like you're committed. You're well, not committed, but like you're more committed to this path. Whereas when you haven't started, you just go, okay, this is the universe of like all the things I'm trying to achieve. Just make sure I've like covered all bases so that when I do commit down this path, it's like that you've considered, the universe of options and like this is actually the best path or like it's an adequately good path. Like it's not a stupid path to kind of pursue. So I really think like I really stress that ideation is like the biggest high value thing that you can do on a day to day. And then yeah, and then of course coding is just outrageously good. You can just code stuff way faster than you could ever dream of. Um,
Yep. And you use ChatGPT for both of those, or do you use other
um,
tools?
yeah, well, I actually subscribe to multiple vendors at a time, but ChatGPT is my default.
Okay.
But yeah, it depends on, so there's this kind of arms race of which model's the best for what.
Mm.
And so between ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, like they've been kind of teeter teetering between improving their models.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm just going to use one of the three. Right now, ChatGPT is the one I subscribe to. Sorry, I've subscribed to ChatGPT and Claude right now, but
Yeah.
you know, I'll and then for research, like if I want to do internet search, then Perplexity is the one I tend to go to if I need kind of a good output. But um, I'm kind of I'm not loyal to any one vendor. I think if yeah, I'll take whatever's out there, and I'm not afraid to try kind of new tools, pivot to what people are saying is the best at any given point in time.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I imagine they'll each evolve over time. And as you said, they're sort of
yeah,
piggybacking, in this sort of race to
yeah.
improve. So, yeah.
That's right. And actually, to be fair, like these days, your big three, like your ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude, are all kind of really very good at your day-to-day tasks, and so there's not much um, difference between the three of them. So I'm finding I just end up getting ChatGPT to do a lot of the work, or in terms of rather than picking, oh, I'm going to go to this one for this thing.
Okay.
But there's the occasion that it doesn't give you what you want, and you just go, okay, fine, I'll just go to the next one.
Okay.
Like, and there's actually sites that allow you to like to throw your prompt in, and then it'll just return you the response on multiple as well. So I used to do that
Ah,
where
okay.
yeah, where it mattered, but doesn't matter so much anymore. So
Okay.
yeah,
So for someone starting out, they could probably just pick one and try
yeah,
and use that, see how they go and learn from that.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, so LLMs have lots of different applications to you to help you individually at work. What
Mhm.
else?
Yeah, so I spoke earlier about these kind of processes that you can build, and I like to think of processes in kind of three major buckets. So one is around analytics, assistance, and automation. So being a pricing actuary myself, like I think of analytics as basically the furthest away that you are from operations. You're basically operating in a lab, whereas automation is where you're impacting, the front line on stuff that kind of basically potentially hits the customer and is kind of the core of the insurance business. So I started a lot of my applications in analytics. So simple things, so things that used to be tricky that are not so tricky are fuzzy matching. So if you have like a long list of elements and you want to kind of find the closest match, and we see this happen quite often in commercial lines where you have a very long occupation description or an ANSIC. Um, that process can be really simplified by like large language models because you can do a semantic search and say, okay, what is the most similar lookup to this string based on meaning. So fuzzy matching is really helpful. Classification of data. So um, a lot of the times data's not perfect and things are mislabeled. And this exercise of like relabeling your data is really, really powerful and an understated one where I've seen a lot of the time in home insurance where um, claims are miscoded between storm surge, and flood, like because most of the time people will just map it to whatever they like. Um, or if they don't, they might use like a string search for looking the word flood, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a flood. So this kind of idea to clean your data, really, really powerful. And the most powerful example of it was when we did this for a liability pricing exercise. So identifying worker-to-worker claims, where these worker-to-worker claims have this very significant development, different development and severity to the rest of the liability BI book. And so we're able to kind of carve out, and for some reason they're not really well coded. And so we were working with one of the biggest insurers in Australia, and they were somewhat confident with their coding. The underwriter said, "This is really good." So then we said, "Okay, well, just give us your descriptions." We ran it through, and then we identified, I forget how, I think it was of, um, yeah, I forget the number of claims that we presented, but we managed to shift 35% of the costs into this into this worker bucket.
Wow.
So in just kind of, and yeah, that was validated by the underwriters themselves. So just being able to improve the quality of the data labels, you by default get to improve the quality of your modeling and your analysis. And that's kind of, I don't think it can kind of overstate like the importance of like if you just it's not the sexiest use of LLM. Like I just clean my data. But by compared to like Bayesian hyperparameter grid search, all this stuff, like
Yeah,
just how about just clean the data? And then like that was really powerful use case. Um
it's a great
so there's
example.
yeah, so there's just use of so those are kind of some uses in the analytical field. And then if we kind of shift it all the way, so shifting it all the way to automation, so working with some commercial lines and strata insurers, they have these processes where people email broker forms to kind of a manager who will kind of open up those emails and documents and then transcribe it to their system and like manually kind of extract and put it into the system and then return back the premium and email back to the broker and the premium to the customer, which is super crazy, but it's because these kind of all these brokers work with different systems and basically they need this kind of human in the middle to open the email and transcribe and put it through. But you know what's really good at transcribing? AI. So we built out this kind of pipeline that will basically you define the attributes that you want to extract from each of the documents and noting that the attribute, so the way that they're presented in each of the different documents can be different. And so you can kind of do that kind of clever search and kind of extract what you need. Um, Return back this kind of nice JSON or table, depending on how you like to think of the world. And then you can take that JSON and then push it into the actual PAS system to calculate the quoting system to calculate the premium, return the premium, and then push back the email. And building out that kind of end-to-end workflow is massive time saver because instead of having like a team that does this read the email, type the stuff in, they can kind of, well, right now we're getting them to just check the outputs. So they can kind of process more. And there's other manual steps that happen after that, which is again crazy, but we're going to kind of work to help automate more of that, kind of streamline that process for them. But yeah, like it just gets them to shift away their time from just pure like manual data entry to more things that actually properly require judgment and like
Hmm.
interaction with humans and um, kind of um, just streamlining that process and changing what their role for their organization is.
Hmm.
So those are kind of some process-driven ones that I find quite exciting because I'm a bit of an automation junkie. Like,
Yeah.
I, um, home automations, like automatic blinds, like all that kind of stuff, like coding, like it all just excites me. And
Yeah.
it's yeah, LLMs allow you to kind of take something that was like too hard, where emails, documents, oh, I can't deal with this. Well,
Mm.
actually, you can.
Mm.
Like basically, that was previously the bottleneck. All the plumbing around it on the coding, you still need. It's funny, like if you think about the LLM bit is only one step in that process, which is document extraction. But then the rest of the application is just a simple coding exercise where it's like, I need to connect to an email database. I need to be able to define the structure I need. I need to send an API to this other system. I need to retrieve that, compose an email and push it back. Like all those steps are like not AI. The only bit is the doc extract bit. But AI kind of where you would have said this was too hard, like AI kind of is this kind of I don't know, this magic function that kind of allows you to kind of dissolve something that was too hard to do. And yeah, and now you've got a end-to-end automation solution that just couldn't do before.
That's so cool. And as I'm listening to you talking about that, Min, I'm thinking about the parallel between what you've just described in terms of that process from end to end and the way that we might delegate a piece of work to one of our team members or ask someone like a human. So just sort of that interaction between how do we work with AI, but how do we work with people and how those leadership
Yeah,
skills, those communication skills that we talk about in terms of being successful leaders or managers or team members.
yeah,
Sounds like those skills will also be quite useful in terms of thinking about how to engage AI to do some of those things for us as well.
yeah, that's right. Like I think that the way to get the most out of AI is to be able to decompose your problem into these very clear set of instructions that can be feasibly solved by AI. And you only know what can or can't be solved if you use the tools first. And yeah, ultimately, yeah, the use of AI and prompt engineering is ultimately clear communication. And yeah, I think we just need to get better at expressing ourselves both, and we need to express ourselves differently to AI than we need than to other people. Um, but yeah, communication is just the fundamental building block of how we can get stuff done. So,
Mm. Okay, so lots of applications at work, both for you as an individual and to processes around actuarial work as well.
mhm,
What are some practical steps that actuaries could take to use LLMs either in their personal or professional lives?
mhm. Yeah, so I think the first thing is to recognize that, yeah, like a lot of the time, your work might not, you might be in a role where you don't necessarily have time to commit to learn something new, and because you just have to get your reporting done, and or your company might not offer you the tools and be quite rigid. And so like the most fail-safe way for me is to start off with personal life and kind of find problems in your personal life that you can kind of use AI for. And so that's kind of the first thing is just, in personal life, you get the liberty of doing whatever tool you want and whatever method you like. And so, yeah, that's going to want to preface that, like, not everyone's going to be able to use AI for everything. Like, I'm quite lucky that I managed to kind of I work in a consulting where I get a variety of problems, and I've Infinity is somewhat relatively progressive in allowing me to use tools. So that's step number one. It's like this won't work for everyone,
Yep.
but yeah, generally it's practical steps like in personal life. Yeah, next time you approach a task, just see if AI can help you. So brainstorming, yeah, kind of brainstorming and ideation, literacy or coding. You can just kind of have this conversation with the AI and see if it can help you. And um, that's kind of the first step. And if you're already doing that, then you might want to kind of learn. So so that's the first step is just um, using the off-the-shelf tools kind of more. And then if you want to kind of take it further, I think the highest value actions that you can have is if you can codify something. So basically, if you have this task that you keep doing over and over again, or you see this task that happens, 1,000 times in the business, basically you might think, I might just make a template on this prompt and I'll just get people to kind of take the template, drop it in the chatbot, pull back, and just, that whole process, if it can be kind of codified. And so I really encourage people, if they haven't already, is to try and learn a programming language. And I think Python is just, a go-to that you should kind of try and get your head around. And it's not as scary as it used to be in terms of learning coding, and you don't need to go to data camp because AI can teach you. So the hardest thing about learning Python by far is just setting it up. And so you can find a YouTube, like you can't just install it and it works. There's all these environment problems, etc., that you need to kind of get your head around. But I would say find a YouTube video, work out how to set up Python, and then you can use AI to help you write the code, understand the syntax, and kind of coach you through this like learning of Python. So once you've learned Python, like as a programming principle, then you can kind of work out, well, how do I interact with AI directly? And so OpenAI, Anthropic, and Gemini have really nice books and documentation on how to use their APIs. So basically, anything that you could do in a chat interface, you can just code that up directly via API. And so whatever conversation you had, you just go, okay, let's see if I can code up that same conversation or task using Python, using the API. And this is where I was mentioning before, like if you work at a company that doesn't have that, then, well, that's why you're not going to be able to do that. But
Personally,
at
yeah.
home, in person life, you can. And it's really easy to kind of set these APIs up. And it's just a few lines of code as well. They've really abstracted away a lot of the complexity. So yeah, you'll find yourself even things like web search and file search. This used to be like really tricky things to do when you needed to use like LangChain and like all these other frameworks. But actually, it's actually in so all the standard API SDKs across the big three like include this stuff. So you just have to just add it as an argument. So um, yeah, you can get very, very far just by following the base examples on your big three. So that's kind of the next step. So like learn Python and just go to go to the big three and just open up the documentation, just try and run stuff. Um, Next step you could try and do is watching YouTube videos, which is like my personal favorite things to do when I'm feeding the baby. I'll just put YouTube videos on AI in the background. And Dave Ebler, I think, is one of the best YouTube creators on AI, and he's got some really good videos. I'll put it in the notes below, but
Right.
that you can get started in a very structured way. He's a very no hype kind of, and this is how you do this in pure Python, like, and he won't oversell anything, and he'll take you through all the code and show you screenshots, and he's got a GitHub repository that you can follow through the steps as well, so that you can literally run the code line by line as he kind of teaches you. So YouTube video, Dave Ebler, and kind of take the code bases that they've already written and just try and run it. Um, so that's kind of the next step that you can kind of do. But then if you're really adventurous, and like I mentioned earlier, the best way and the most valuable way I found in learning is just finding a project and like that you want to do and then just build it from scratch. So pick something that you want and just commit hard. And if you don't know how to do it, you just ask AI to like fill in the gaps. And so, yeah, that's basically where I've learned the majority of my knowledge on like random tech stuff, like yeah, like I mentioned like Next.js applications, fast API deployments, RAG, like CI/CD pipelines, like Azure, AWS, Google Cloud Platform, Docker. Like I just, like I was like I need this, and I'm like, what are the different ways I can deploy this? And you just go, and then you pick, and you go, if you don't know, you just ask AI, and ChatGPT will tell you how to set stuff up, and that's how you kind of get your project from ideation to reality. And yeah, that's the one thing that I kind of just enjoy the most. It's like, oh, I got this, and I have so many of these like silly ideas that I have in the back of my mind, but just don't really have time to do anymore. But occasionally I'll spin something up, and yeah, that's like the if you have the time and the right attitude, you can kind of do anything. Um, and you can kind of learn anything. I find that the learning AI is way easier than passing your actuarial exams.
Wow.
So yeah, and the thing about these kind of all the concepts are very so learning to use AI is way easier than passing actual exams. Learning to build LLMs from scratch using transformers and all of that very hard. But you don't need to do that because smart people have done that for you, and you can just interact with this stuff using an API or just a front-end interface. Like everyone, like the hard work has literally been done for you. So the only thing that's left that's hard is there's just such a variety of technology and concepts and like really like, like overcomplication of terminology, like retrieval augmented generation, vector databases, and like all these like words that are like way harder than they need to be, and embeddings and all this stuff like. But then when you go and learn it, you go, okay, well, like retrieval augmented generation is just like open book exam where you cross-reference like what you want, you pull out the most relevant information and then you answer the question. Or like prompt engineering, it's just like asking the AI in a very structured manner. Like it's just structured questioning is what that is. And there's context engineering where there's all there's
Yeah.
super duper fancy terms, and if you just go and look at it and think about it, then actually not that hard. But it's having the courage and the energy to go like, I'm going to look into this because I want to. Um, that's where that's like your biggest hurdle and just like wanting to do it. But because I think every actuary should be able to learn this stuff. You got like 18-year-old like high school kids like learning how to build these applications, hadn't written a line of code, but
Yeah.
then they just want to sink time and they build out these full stack apps and they make these 10 million ARR projects. Like, if these kids can do it, like, why can't you? And I think the thing is like you don't have time, like fair enough. Then maybe you can try and carve out time somehow, make it a priority.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's important
but
lifelong
yeah.
learning and CPD for us, I guess, as actuaries. And it's encouraging to hear that even if you don't know what you're doing or how to use it, you can ask the AI to teach you. So
That's
it's kind of, yeah, it's
yeah,
all
that
there. It's
is
just a matter of making the time.
it's about committing the time.
Yeah.
And
I mean, thank you for sharing so many practical tips and strategies and stories from your experience. I want to finish with one question, and it's this. I mean, what's one tip that you'd have for an actuary wanting to improve their skills using LLMs?
yeah, so yeah, the tip is going to be really like not that helpful, but also helpful. And I guess it's like if you want to improve your skills in anything in life, what do? You just increase exposure to it. You practice, right? And so the tip is just to increase your exposure, and you can do that either by learning more theory or you can kind of get hands-on practice. And obviously, I've mentioned that hands-on practice on building an application is like the highest value thing that I find, but um, you might need some kind of baseline theory, or you might watch videos, read articles, do online courses, or go to a seminar to kind of upskill yourself to have the confidence to try and kind of actually build out tools or even just try them out. So increase exposure.
To wrap up, I wonder, thinking back to your rap on stage at the summit, I wonder if you could share a few bars from your 10 tips around LLMs for us.
Oh yeah. So all right. So yeah, rather than one tip, yeah, there's actually like 10 things that you can do, and they all kind of build on top of each other. And I'll just kind of close off by kind of spitting a few bars just
Great.
because.
Thank you.
Oh, why not? Okay. So number one, use AI for a broader range of tasks. Improve your prompting style so AI does what you ask. Number two, have some fun with new kinds of tools. Voice, image, video, vibe code, something cool. Learn building blocks to code AI systems. Access different models, give it tools and wisdom. Learn agentic patterns, but try to be astute. Workflows suffice, use less compute. Number 4, time to learn your legal obligations. Be honest to consumers, avoid unfair discrimination. Guard PAI, the global processing is okay. The EU AI Act leads the standards up to date. 5, get models open weights API. Deploy in private cloud, it's not hard, you should try. 6, examine different packages and tools. List pros, cons, choose a tech stack. Rocket Fuel. 7, identify tasks to do smarter, high volume manual work, underused, unstructured data. Number 8, list out the things you can create, analytics, systems, and the things that you can automate. They won't teach you this in your classes, but look it up. AI smashes tasks in a flash, but how? Complexity just insane. It's so dire, the world will never be insane. We as a profession must embrace this change. There's no escaping from this up-and-coming wave. Number 9, open VS Code, light a fire, summon all the tokens you require, then count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Number 10, places fire.
Amazing, amazing. First rapping on stage at the Actuaries Summit and probably the first rapping on the We Are Actuaries podcast. Minh Phan, thank you so much for your time today. What a fantastic set of information that you've shared for our listeners. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me, Julia. It's really fun.